So I'll just go on to Module 3, which is creating events, pages, and templates. So the first thing that I need to do here is create some more pages. So I can create a page just by clicking Pages here, right-clicking it, and selecting Insert New Page. So when I do that, it'll prompt me to name my page. Calling it Page 2 is fine. You can call it whatever you want. And I'll just add a couple of these. So now I have 3 different pages in my project, and I can navigate throughout by clicking the tabs or double-clicking one to open it. So throughout my pages, page 1 is currently my home page, and the first page is always going to be set as your home page by default. If you want to change your home page, you can double-click on Project Properties and find Home Page, just like when we had Project Type, and change this to something else. But right now, we don't have any way to navigate between pages, so that's the first thing I'm going to add here, is kind of a framework for getting from page to page. That's usually done with an event, probably triggered by a button. The button would trigger an event that changes the page to something else. So I'm going to create a button that does that. And what I'm going to do is make it so that button shows up on all of my screens using a template. So what a template is it allows us to create basically a background that goes onto multiple screens or all of your pages if you want. And you can put widgets as part of that template that you can use on different pages. So I can create that template by clicking on Templates, right-clicking it, and picking Insert New Template Page. Name it if you want to. And now I have my first template page. To kind of tangent a little bit, something that people put on their template pages a lot is a company logo. So if I want to add that as an image, I can click on this image widget, drop it into the corner, click Image Path, click the Browse button here, and select an image from my computer. Then once I have that image, I can either resize it just by clicking and dragging, or I can maintain the dimensions or the ratio by clicking and dragging the corner while holding Control. So that's just how you can get an image or a logo into your project. But I also want to add some page navigation. So in buttons, I like to use these arrow keys for page navigation, just to show that we're going to be going to the next page. So I do need to create an event to do that, and this is a pretty simple example of an event. I can add that event over here in Properties with my button selected. Select how to trigger it, either on mouse click, on mouse hold, on mouse press, or on mouse release. All of these do pretty much the same thing. It's just triggering depending on when the mouse is held or released. The only one that's really different is on data update. What this would allow us to do is trigger an event when this value field changes. It's not so useful for a button because that would usually mean you're pressing the button anyway. But maybe for a numeric field, if you wanted to execute an event when the number changed, you would use this in that case. But I'm just going to pick on mouse click and click the plus sign to add my event or my action. So when I do that, I get this action list dialog, which will present you with a long list of actions containing pretty much anything that you might want to add to your project. So we can collapse and expand this list if you want to, just to make it easier to find things. They are categorized to organize them a little bit. So I know that the category for my page navigation event is page, so this is where I want to be. There are a couple different choices here. We could load a page, which would just let me choose which page to load. We could go back to the home page, go back to page 1 in this case. Previous page, go to the page before it on the list. So it would go from page 3 to 2, 2 to 1, and 1 back to the end. It would wrap around and go back to the other side. Next page does the opposite, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 1. Last visited page is like the back arrow. So if I had gone from page 1 to 3 somehow, if I hit last visited page, it would return me to page 1. I'll look at show dialog a little bit later. This is how we can show a pop-up. But for now, I just want to pick next page and click OK. So whenever I click this arrow, it's going to take me back, or take me to the next page, 1 to 2, etc. So this is a pretty simple template page. Before I simulate this, I'm going to add a couple more things just to flesh it out a little bit more. One of those things is the time, which you can find in a dedicated widget actually under Basic, Controls, and you can find this widget that shows the time. You can change the date format to change how it's displayed. Maybe you want to see only the date or only the time. You can change that here. Also, there is this one instead, which also shows the time, but allows you to change it using these up and down arrows. Maybe you need to use that instead if you might need to change the time. I think usually the standard one is better. Also, I'm going to add a system variable tag showing my IP address. So up until now, all of the tags that I've been adding, I was at this tag listing next to source. But when I was adding the system variables protocol, I mentioned that it was possible to use a shortcut to get to the system variables. So that's what I'm going to do here. I can select system up here, and now I see all of my system variables. So things like the time are here, network, which is what I want. I can obtain the IP address, which is what I'm going to select here. So I can select IP address and click OK. And now this field is going to be displaying my IP address. It's important to remember that my IP address is going to be bigger than this field. So when that happens, a lot of it's just going to get cut off. To prevent that from happening, you can just make your field bigger. You can type in just a bunch of letters here so you can kind of estimate how big it is. But I think that'll be big enough for the IP address. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. So with that all set up, the last thing I need to do before I simulate this is to actually add the template to my pages. So on page 1, I have a field called template while I'm at the page level properties. So if you're not seeing this, that might be because you clicked on a widget. So just click off into space to get to page level properties, find template, and change it to template page 1. And I'm going to do that for all of my pages. So now I have this template in the background. I can't edit it. I could put stuff on top of it if I want to. I will be able to press the buttons at runtime, but it's not part of this page. It's just the background. So if I want to edit it, I have to edit it from the template. So I'll go ahead and simulate that. So you see I have my time, IP address, my whole template is here, and I can change between my pages.